Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today, it sort of features mental health that wasn't really treated and then it ended up in tragedy. It is about the murder of Michael Joseph Howell. So we're going to be following a girl called Crystal Howell. Her parents were Michael Howell and mother Christina. They also had another child together called Sierra, and they lived in Georgia. Now, growing up, it was said that Crystal was a handful. She was always buzzing and she was a lot of fun, but also very hard work, I guess. She would get into trouble quite a lot. And she was always here, there and everywhere, you know, always on the go. Her parents would have to keep a close eye on her to make sure that she wasn't getting into any trouble. You know, things like that. But as Crystal got older, people began to, and her family and her parents began to realise that she was having some issues that were a bit worse than sort of normal. She started vandalising, she started stealing, she started lying. Her behaviour was really getting out of control. And they believed that it was more along the lines of, not that she's just misbehaving completely and is just really naughty, but that she was having sort of mental health issues, and that is what was causing it. So Crystal would actually be put on medication for this. Now, her father Michael hated that. He really didn't want her on any meds whatsoever, whereas her mother more agreed to it and said, you know, get her the help she needs. If it's meds she needs, then that's what she needs to have. They let her have them for a while, but you know, he really didn't want it. And it was because Michael actually believed that the medication was affecting her personality and sort of holding her back and things like that. It wasn't because he didn't think that she needed it or that he didn't want her to have it. He felt like it was actually changing her. And this was a massive thing for her two parents because, you know, the mother wanted her to have it and the father didn't. And so it put a huge rift in between them. And they had a lot of arguments over it. I believe that Crystal must have still been playing up at some point because they ended up taking her back to the doctors and they advised her to go for counselling, which Michael just completely said, no, you know, my daughter is not going for counselling. And I get it, okay? He said that he went for counselling and he was really bullied for it, and so he didn't want her to suffer through that, which is fair enough. But if she needs professional help, then, you know, you just, I know he was only looking out for her and he wanted to do the best for her, and that is what you thought was the best for her. You know, as it turned out, it ended in such a tragic event, but he was doing the best that he could. But on the other hand as well, Crystal really needed professional help and she just never got it, which is really, really sad because possibly it could have changed her as a person. It could have changed the outcome of this case. We will never know. So the disagreements between the parents ended up being a huge factor as to them splitting up. But not only that, Christina actually drops this huge bombshell on Michael to say that Sierra was not his daughter. So Crystal's older sister, I believe Sierra was like 19 at the time. I'm not entirely sure. I might have just made that up. Sorry if I have. But he found out that he wasn't her dad. And so the daughter that he'd been raising for all them years, that he thought was his biological daughter, wasn't. Can you imagine the shock of that? And it's really sad because it put a rift in between him and Sierra too. Because Sierra had an interview and said that he just grew really distant from her and didn't want to be around her anymore, and it was because she wasn't his, which just broke my heart a little bit. I mean, when this case happened, they were actually trying to repair their relationship and they were trying to get back into each other's lives, which would have been a really nice thing to happen, except from what did happen. So Michael moved out with Crystal, and he had got this inheritance off his grandparents, a lot of money. I think I heard somewhere that it was like 800,000, but I might be lying with that. Anyway, he goes and he buys this like massive cabin. It's got 8 bedrooms. It's on the side of this place called Sheep Mountain in North Carolina, sorry. And it was just absolutely gorgeous. Like, he had all this money. He bought him and Crystal this beautiful house, and they had this really close, tight-knit relationship together. It was a nice fresh start for them, but it didn't really change Crystal's behaviour because, again, she still needed the help that she wasn't getting. And so she began running away. Sometimes that would be as frequent. Like, she'd stay away for 3 weeks at a time sometimes. And he would tell his concerns of her behaviour to a friend who said that, you know, he said to him that it seemed like she didn't have a conscience and that she would just do awful things and not really care. And he was like, what, a bit like a psychopath or something like that? And he was like, well, yeah. Michael was 50 years old at this point, and we're now into the end of February 2014. Michael went out shopping with Crystal, and Crystal stole something like she'd done so often before. And Michael actually made her go back and like take it back and apologise to the shop owner. You know, and Crystal was fuming at that, I guess. So he goes home, don't really think much of it. He falls asleep on the sofa while Crystal apparently goes and has a shower. But then she goes and gets her father's gun. She brings it into the living room where her dad's sleeping on the sofa, and she shoots him in the head. And Michael, that was the end of Michael, sadly. She then got his body and put him in like this plastic bin or something like that and shoved him in the shed. And he was kind of rolled, like curled over, like head over and squished into this basket thing. And then she basically says that her father went out to a business trip, he's left her alone in there, yada yada yada. She starts partying, she starts having friends over, doing the hard stuff. And then she gets this phone call from her mum, which must have been fake, right? Because she claims that her dad has committed suicide, but obviously he's in her shed. So I don't know if it's a real conversation. Like, did that actually really happen? Did the mum get word that he'd killed himself when he hadn't or something? I don't know. But anyway, I think that it might have been a fake one. You know, like she faked it so that she would get the pity off her friends or something. Who knows? Or maybe having excuses to him not being there. So her friends were trying to comfort her. She was hysterical, devastated. And they decided that they were going to move in to the house where Crystal was living, now alone without her father. And they were going to move in and be there for her. And that's what they did. So Crystal started having parties and paying for all the bills with Michael's money. You know, just having a blast of a time. And her friends were there living. She would buy food. She would pay for the electricity, for the water, for the whatever. And it was said that the home became like a party home for a time. One of these big blowout parties, she ended up bringing a lot of, you know, hard drugs there, got absolutely wasted. But her friends really do believe that she might have been spiked as well. After this party ended, she just sat in a chair for 2 weeks and didn't move. But finally, when she did, she decided to tell her friends that she was going to go and live with her mum for a while until after her birthday, which was around 6 months away, I believe. And then she would be back, that her friends could stay living in the house. And, you know, they could call her if they ever needed any help with any food or anything like that. But she gave them one rule, which was to not go in the shed. Now, she said, do not go in the shed because that's where me and my dad used to go. All our memories are in there. It's a special place for us and I just don't want anybody in there. You know, little did they know that her father's corpse was in there rotting away. So they were like, yeah, we won't go in there. But, well, they did, like, pretty much straight away. So she told them that they could sell this pinball machine or something, and they take it out to go and sell it. It didn't sell, so they brought it back home, but rather than bring it back in and put it back into the room that it was in, they decided that they were going to just stick it in the shed because it was easier. So that's what they do. They break the lock on the shed, they open the door, and as soon as those doors open, there is this stench that comes out of them. And she's like, oh my god. And then as one of her friends walks in, she sees a body in a tub or bin or whatever it is, like leant over with some of its head missing. At first she thought it was somebody from the party, but then quickly realised that it was actually Michael, Crystal's father. She immediately legs out of there and calls the police, and she had suspicions that Crystal was actually trying to frame her because just before that, she was the one that found it, but then just before that, she'd actually sold the weapon that she used to kill her dad's gun, to her friend's father and said that he gave it to her for protection and she just wanted to sell it for some money. So she actually sold the murder weapon to her friend's dad, and this is probably another reason as to why this friend first thought was that she was trying to frame her for it. And Crystal had actually made it all the way up to her mother. I believe that her mum saw the car parked outside or something and went out, and you know, they shared some words together, but that was about it. She spoke to her sister, but didn't really say much. They said that she really didn't seem like herself at all. And then Obviously, the police were looking for her at that point, and they found her in, I believe, in a motel or something. And straight away, Crystal was trying to pretend that she didn't do it, but then she eventually did admit to murdering her father. The sad thing is, as well, her friend said that they were so close. Like, she adored her dad, and he absolutely adored her. It's just, I don't know, she just had some mental health issues that were never ever, apologies, were never treated in the proper way. And that's, I don't know, that's where it ended up. So whilst Crystal was in prison, she was actually diagnosed with several mental disorders and was sentenced to 30 years in jail as part of a plea deal. Her her mum and her sister had an interview, and they actually stated that if Crystal wanted you to know one thing, that she wasn't a monster, that she just needed help that she did not get. And maybe it could have changed the course of events if she would have got that help when she was young, like her mum said, 10, something like that. Maybe this would have never happened, and maybe Crystal would have been a completely different person. Well, not a completely different person, but you know what I mean. Obviously, it's absolutely devastating, especially Michael lost his life to his daughter that he worshipped, and apparently she worshipped him as well. So maybe because he made her apologise for stealing, that was just her breaking point, because she was really suffering mental disorders and just snapped. It is absolutely heartbreaking what happened in this case, and my heart goes out to all of the family. But yeah, that is the end of the case. If you guys have enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for similar content. That's all I have today on the case of Michael Howell. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.